Hello everyone, I am Karuna and I welcome you all to my channel. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about jump statements and the else part of a for and a while loop in Python programming language. So let's quickly learn about jump statements. A jump statement interrupts the normal flow of a program and transfers the control by skipping some part of the code or statements to some other location in the program. There are three different kinds of jump statements in Python. The first one is break, which terminates a loop. Next is continue. The purpose of continue statement is to skip one iteration of the loop and then continue with the next iteration. Pass statement is little different, which actually does nothing on its execution. Now let's learn about these jump statements in detail. The break statement, the purpose of which is to terminate a loop immediately and moves the control to the statements which are written outside the loop. So here we are going to execute the for loop from the beginning. For the first time, I gets the value 1 given by the range function, after which it checks the condition for divisibility by 5 where it becomes false, and therefore the control moves to the statement which is written after the if condition, giving the value of I on the screen. So you can see that the last statement is not part of the for loop, and therefore the control goes back to increment the value of I by 1 and I gets 2 value. The condition is again checked for 2 modulus 5 equal to 0 where it becomes false, and thus giving the value 2 on the screen. These steps are performed for the value of I as 3, for the value of I as 4, and now when the value of I is 5, the if condition becomes true and therefore executing the break statement. The execution of this break will skip the statements written after it inside the for loop, and the control will move to the statements which are following the for loop. This print statement gets executed, giving outside for loop output on the screen. Continue statement skips the execution of the statements which are following it, and the control is transferred back to the loop, which results into the next iteration of the loop. Let's understand continue statement with the help of this example. In this example, the range function generates numbers in reverse order starting from 10 till the number 1, where every number is decreased by 1. So in the first step, I gets value 10, after which it is checked against the condition of I modulus 2 not equal to 0. For number 10, this condition becomes false and the control moves to the statement which gives the value of 10 as the output. In the next step, I is decremented and gets value 9. For this, the if condition becomes true and the continue statement gets executed. This statement will stop the movement to the next statements which are written inside the loops after continue statement, and therefore it takes the control back to the loop where the next value of I is assigned. The next value of I is 8, for which the condition becomes false, and then it is printed on the screen. Then it is 7, for which condition is true, and continue will skip the printing of number 7 on the screen, giving the next value of I as 6. For 6, if is false, 6 is printed on the screen. Then we get number 5, the condition becomes true for 5 and 5 is not printed on the screen. Then we have 4. 4 is printed on the screen with the help of the print statement. Then we get number 3, for which if condition becomes true, and continue takes the next iteration of the loop, giving the value of variable I as 2. This if is false for 2 and thus we get 2 as the output. The last step where the value of I you can see is 1, in which the condition becomes true and continue gets executed, and finally the value of variable I, which is 0 now, will end the loop. and then the control will move to the statements which are written outside the for loop, and you can see it will print outside for loop as the output. The pass statement does nothing in your code and can be used to avoid compilation errors which can arise if your program includes an empty block of code. The code here demonstrates the working of pass statement along with try and except block. These try and except blocks are part of exception handling in Python programming, which are used to manage runtime errors. Try is a block which contains the code which needs to be tested or executed, whereas the except block handles the error which are generated in the try block. It is important to understand that the syntax of try and except allows us to use them together. We cannot write a code which includes only try block or only except block. So now let's move further towards understanding our pass statement in the given code. Inside the code, I've initialized two variables with some values. In order to perform division between these two variables, I would like to ensure that none of these variables contain value 0. So with this, I've written a condition which checks if n is equivalent to 0 or m is equivalent to 0. If any of these conditions become true, then it would raise a 0 division error because we cannot divide a number by 0. So 0 division error is an exception which has been defined in Python programming. It's like a constant which can be raised here. It's the raise keyword which will raise this error, and because I've written an except block in my code, so the control will now move to the except block which will handle this 0 division error. As I do not want to implement my except block, so I can simply write a pass statement and complete the syntax of try and except block. In this case, pass would not do anything but would also allow me to include the except block inside my code. So this way you can include a pass statement when you are unaware of the code which is to be included inside a function, inside a loop, or an except block like this. Here I have few examples which will help you to understand the working of pass statement in order to create an empty if condition, an empty loop, an empty function definition, and an empty class. In order to implement pass, you need to keep one thing in your mind. If any of the function implementation or any code implementation that you do not want to include in your program can be left empty with the pass statement, and you can implement that in the future. So in order to include a proper syntax of the programming language, we can have this pass statement to avoid compilation errors. A pass and a continue statement are different from each other in the following ways. The pass statement can be used without a loop, whereas continue cannot work without a loop. In pass statement, the control moves to the statements which are written after it, whereas in case of continue, it skips the execution of the statements which are written below, and the control will move to the loop, resulting into the next iteration. Now we have else of a loop. This might sound very strange because till now you have been using else part only with an if condition, but yes, Python allows us to have an else part for a for and a while loop. Now let's understand how this else will work. Else block is written after a for or a while loop and will be executed only when all the iterations of the loop are over. But if a loop has a break statement inside it, then the else part of the loop will not get executed. Have a look at this code to understand the working of else part of the loop. In this code, the loop prints even numbers from number 2 to number 10. The variable I gets the value 2 for the first time, which is printed on the screen. Then the task is repeated till the variable I gets value 10. You can see on the right hand side that the numbers are printed one by one. Once all the iterations of the loop are over, the control moves to the else part, which is written after the for loop, and the statement of printing printed even numbers from 2 to 10 is executed, which is shown on the screen. So through this example, it is very much clear that an else part will execute after the loop gets over with all its iterations. The else part can be used similarly with the while loop also. Let's have one more example to understand the working of the else statement. This time my code has a break statement inside it. If the break statement gets executed, then it will not perform the execution of the else part of the loop. This code checks a number for a prime or a composite number. The value is assigned to variable n. So before I start the explanation of the else part, let me explain you the logic for prime numbers. A number is called a prime number only when it is divisible by 1 and itself. And if you notice, then the same condition is valid for all the composite numbers. That means we can say all the numbers are divisible by 1 and itself. So in order to find a difference between the prime and the composite numbers, you can see inside the range function, I have specified the start value as 2. So no number will be divided by 1. And as you know that the factors of a number are available only till its half, so the stop part of the range function has been specified as n divided by 2 plus 1 because we need that extra number. So the value n will be divided from the numbers between the range 2 to its half. Let's start the execution of the loop. For this, I have specified the value 6 to variable n. In for loop, variable I first gets the value 2. In the next step, 6 is divided by 2 and the remainder is compared against 0. If the remainder is 0, that means I've got one factor which will make my number a composite number. So as you know that 6 is divisible by 2. So if condition becomes true and on the screen I get 6 is a composite number. In the next step, a break statement gets executed and therefore the else part of the loop will not get executed and the program will get over. So this example shows it very clearly. When a loop has a break statement, then else of the loop is not executed. Let's run this code one more time for a prime number. So for this, variable n has been assigned value 7. In the loop, the range function will generate numbers from 2 to 7 divided by 2 plus 1, which is 4. That means variable I will get the values 2 and 3. The next step checks the divisibility of 7 by number 2. Because 2 cannot divide 7, so this if condition becomes false, and then we get the next iteration of the loop where the value of I variable is 3. In this case also, the if condition is false and now the loop gets the next iteration, but there are no numbers available from the range function. The control directly moves to the else part of the loop where statement gets printed that the number is a prime number. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. The link to the worksheet can be found in the description box. If you have any doubts related to the concepts explained in this tutorial, please feel free to mention in the comment section and I would be happy to help you. If you like the video, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for latest updates. Till then, keep working with smile.